Well, thank you, David, for spending your time today to discuss supply chain efficiency and change management. Can you start by providing a brief background of yourself?
Certainly. And thank you, Dustin, for the connection. And Lee Biles is here with me as well, part of the Quarant group. Um, I'm originally from Montgomery, Texas, currently live in Conroe, work in Houston. Got a beautiful wife there in Conroe and five children. And I have over 15 years of supply chain experience with multiple disciplines, including time served in the U.S. Marine Corps, freight forwarding, customs brokerage, and most recently with the oil well services company. Lee, you want to give your
Sure.
intro or?
My background's a little bit different. My name is Lee Biles. I'm here in the area as well, and my background's more in behavioral sciences and HR change management.
My first question is, can you discuss the issue of the lack of automation utilization?
Certainly. Um, Over the years, I've observed a multitude of processes that could be automated with very little effort. Um, Similar to the Western Union process that I learned about through Six Sigma course and studies, they basically had a process where they would onboard new agents who wanted to be Western Union reps, and possibly we can post some links to the videos with the transcript of this. But basically, in summary, the old process took about 19 days to onboard a new agent. And after they made a few small changes that didn't really cost very much at all, they were able to get that 19 days down to 30 minutes. And I've seen this over and over in supply chain, similar to the quote by Brian or Ben Trogue. He says that doing very efficiently that which should not be done at all is a particular waste of time. And so, when you approach change and change management, which is something that Lee deals quite a bit with, some examples that I've seen in my experience are some manual export logs that we do, which basically is taking information from a database screen, transferring it onto a manual form, and then that form follows through the process, similar to what you could see on that Western Union video. But ultimately, this piece of paper ends up to another data entry person who then rekeys in the information that was originally pulled off the screen. Another example of that same thing is manual dispatch tickets or manual bill of ladings, and sometimes there's just reasons for these manual forms, but they at some point they could be converted to an OCR PDF document or something for easy retrieval later on. Paper-based filing logs, export logs, and import brokerage. It's a major deal too. Paper is just widely used and necessary, but I think you could make some small changes to automate some of these processes.
And what types of technologies exist to increase supply chain efficiency?
Well, that's a great question, Dustin. I've observed a huge focus on these manual paper-based forms in my supply chain involvement, and industries and agencies have changed. Carriers, ocean carriers, air freight carriers, they do now have the ability to do a paperless booking request, paperless airway bills. There's called what in ocean freight, what's known as express release. With U.S. Customs, we have automated broker interface where we can electronically transmit entries to Customs. Lots of things exist that are moving towards more automated technology, but the adoption is fairly slow in what I've seen. And maybe Lee can comment on that towards the end here as to why. But it's kind of frustrating when you can see, better ways that would improve. Some suggestions are to look at the process and utilize the technology that already exists, or re-engineer the process. Maybe the steps could be reordered to provide a more smooth. Consider removing steps or standardize to reduce step variations for when you have different receivings or different types of shipments that you're doing. Consider batch processing or breaking the processes down into smaller steps. Technologies, those databases that I mentioned, I mean, there's RFID that exists now, radio frequency identification for warehousing and supply chain. Lots of stuff out there, GPS tracking, just a multitude of things that exist technology-wise to help supply chain efficiency.
Change management techniques that could increase user adoption.
I'll let Lee take over from here because change management is his specialty.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, first of all, in change management, you have to admit you can't change anyone. You can only introduce ideas and procedures that ensure them benefits and have them adopt the change. That you can enforce by policy adoption, but that's going to create inefficiencies as well that may back off of what you were expecting to get as return. People find their workarounds. They cheat to find to make things back the way they're used to it. I mean, but change doesn't have to be always painful. It can also be a relief. I mean, I was just telling David earlier that you don't have to tell somebody to take their hand off the hot stove. It's if they've understanding that's where their pain is coming from, they usually adopt the change pretty quickly. But I found in my experience of rolling out a new technology that the technologist who did the collection of requirements missed usability, or they missed some things that they didn't consider about in the field. I know when I'm dealing with paper, a lot of the issues we have with adopting processes that involve eliminating paper is that it often creates more paper. Is you get the form to be online in some sort of fashion, and then everybody prints it, and right. So really you've made the problem worse, because instead of passing the same document through a process flow, now no one's working off the same version, because the online version doesn't match the version that's in my hand that I printed it out. So in some cases, when you're talking about controls, paper is best because there's only one copy of it. And so we end up with issues. I'm seeing more adoption of eliminating paper devices now that tablet PCs are out, because the one thing that laptops and computers fail to do is when I'm out in the field, how do I get access to this information? Well, the answer is to print it out. And so tablets have helped, and we're seeing tablets everywhere these days.
And iPads.
And smartphones and the devices, and that reduces the reason to print it out.
Yeah, my beef is that in supply chain, they're rarely utilized.
Yeah. Well, iPads are expensive. There's still a lot of managers. I think there was in the news recently the one company that ordered 12,000 iPads to turn around and have to send them back because no one knew what to use them for. So the question is this a fad, or is this here to stay as far as tablet PCs? But a lot of not thinking through the process is usually the problem. And there's also the other problem of I see when you roll out new technology is you're eroding at the experience of the manager. The manager knew how to do things. And when you roll out new technology, he no longer knows how to do those things. Mm. And so the manager will not buy in because he doesn't have time. He's not the one that does it anymore. Mm-hmm. So why does he need to learn the new way? Well, the only reason why he needs to learn the new way is because you told him there's a new way. So no, the old way's fine, and I'm going to stick with it. So you have to give managers also, even though they're not the ones that are actually doing the work, buy-in as well, because they need time to understand what their people do, and they often get left out of the loop in the training programs because training's not high on their priority for something I'm not going to execute. So executive level training is important.
Do you have any ideas on how to get them to understand that? Because if they're not doing the work, then obviously they don't understand how much time it could really save.
Yeah, role playing is often. I usually like to use old terms to explain new things. So they're like, okay, I have to understand the process. So back in the day when you were in charge, this is what you did. Well, now this is online. Or another situation I found is to make it physical. To put a device, a ball in the room that says, here's this piece of information, and let's pass it around the room as if it was a game of catch. And to visualize, managers are highly visual, I find, to visualize what's going on, they can connect the dots.
A process flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take the technology out of what's going on and let's get back to their expertise, and their expertise is their process.
Yeah, I've seen that done too with like sticky notes.
Sticky notes,
Kaizen events. Yeah.
You think whatever connects.
Voice of the customer.
Yeah, I usually find myself in rooms of sports fans. So if I bring that ball of choice of whatever sport that is, and it gets them
thinking.
Thinking.